Welcome everyone today to Synergy, and this is my little show on spirituality, recovery, holistic wellness, and basically anything I want to talk about and our guests want to talk about. And today we have a very special guest. Are you coming to us from Scotland? It's Lisa Precious, and she's a writer, and she's also had many healing experiences and is forming a foundation, a mentorship. But I'll let you tell me about that because you know it much better than I do. So what is Smiley Blue?
So, Smiley Blue has come to me really through my own divine guidance, and I can really trail it back through my childhood and probably realizing that the higher self is here before you, before you've even almost realized it. So, it's all kind of come into place and made sense now. So when I moved up to Scotland, it was very much a trust of faith, very much a trust of divine calling, and a dissolving completely of everything, my old life, and leaving it behind and trusting in the call. And it was going through what I would call the spiritual wilderness period, if you like, the dark
Mm.
night of the soul, that I came to the realization of starting Smiley Blue and bringing in my spiritual gifts, if you like. And I felt that we're in this time now on earth that we know what our calling is, and it's time to raise the consciousness on the planet. And for me, that's probably what the last 2 years has been about, if we were paying attention. And I've always felt that connection to the divine as a child. And Smiley Blue, the inspiration came from a childhood trip to South Africa. And it was a great big neon smiley sign in a really cool, trendy fashion shop that imprinted on me the beautiful oceans and the sunsets of South Africa, the injustice of the segregation that was going on when I was there. And I just felt it was the perfect name for what I'm doing when we've just had 2 years of covered faces and fear, to bring some smiles onto planet Earth and to raise the vibration and consciousness of the planet. So it's very much lamp in hand, walking the path, and the dissolving of that sort of 3D existence. So where we've always heard in the past, Paul, that you've got to have clear goals and you've got to smash your goals and targets and sell. This is very different. This is coming completely from the heart, from a place of service, and just trusting in the path. And every day I breathe life and energy into it. And a bit like what you're doing with Synergy, you just have this knowing that if you take the actions in alignment with your higher self, it's just going to come. And that's I know this because this is my calling. So that's Smiley Blue.
Yeah, there really is a lot of serendipity, synchronicity, magic to this whole process. I think yesterday I was looking up the proper spelling of je ne sais quoi, I don't know what. So there is an ineffable, uh, what you call the calling. I don't think I could do anything but what I do. I love what I do so much that, I would be doing it anywhere I was. So if I wasn't a counselor and I worked at Walmart, I would still be being me and spreading that at Walmart to customers or whoever would listen to me, or fellow employees or anything like that. So, and so that the 3D consciousness that you spoke of, I mean, I know more of this from a traditional sense of exploring religion and so on and so forth. And a lot of people would say, oh, that's new agey. And if you really start looking at new age practices, they're really ancient. These are really old customs from Gnosticism and from Kabbalah and from Sufism and so on and so forth. The religions that predated the religions, and we know what happened as organized religion came to town. Everyone who was not part of the new organized religion, they were heretics and they were killed, or they were burned at the stake. Oh, you have a different opinion than us. But tell us more about raising into out of 3D consciousness, if you could.
It's just been a natural progression. And so I had to follow what I knew was my inner calling within. So back where we've just been living 2 years ago, I knew that I had a calling. I had a beauty business, and I remember a little voice in my head saying, "There's more in you, Lisa. There's more to come." And we had the lockdowns, etc. And there was just this pull to have to come out of the town and city and move into the countryside. And I've forgotten your original question now.
Oh boy, I forgot it too. Oh no, let's see, let's recall.
Oh, the 3D.
Coming out of 3D consciousness.
Yeah. So I've had to go through this sort of dark night of the soul to come into that place. And when I trusted the call to come up here, it was a case of dissolving my business, dissolving friendships, dissolving my kickboxing, my swimming, everything about my old life. My kids were left behind. My daughter's at uni. My son wanted to stay back, albeit he's moved up here now. And I trusted the call. And then we got here, and it was almost winter, and we're in this little freezing cold cottage.
Mhm.
And we just went, what are we doing? Why are we here? The first thing I wanted to do was just run back to my old life because I was uncomfortable. And of course, we know that we grow in discomfort, don't we?
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah, so, it was a sort of 6 month, almost a grieving, going through, like, what have I done? I'm in this spiritual winter. And the spring came around and the growth started in Scotland, and the sun came out and the baby lambs. And I thought, oh, I know why I'm here now. It's beautiful. But as a family and as a mother, I put my children into discomfort too. My daughter initially hated me for moving here. She hated Scotland. She hated the weather. And, my son was going through his own dark night of the soul as well. So, and then my husband's just like going along with it, and sort of having his ups and downs with it. But we've built our home now, and we live on top of a hill. We're in the countryside, surrounded by nature, and it's all clicking into sense. And once I'd come through that sort of dark night of the soul, as you walk through the fire, if you like, of purification, then you purify, don't you? And it's just been this rapid spiritual growth. And it's very much been an internal journey, and it's been a lot, rapid. So
if you wanted to describe what you felt after with the rebirth, because I have I've read St. John of the Cross, and I can look at what I went through at the end of my drug addiction and so on and so forth as a trial by fire, a dark night of the soul, and an utter disconnection, utter hopelessness that I felt when I was going through that. And, like I had no more answers from my own ego, from my own wherewithal. And so I threw my hands in the air and said, help, help. I don't really believe there's anything out there, but if there is, I really could use some help down here. I'm not doing life very well. My kids at that time, were counseling my wife to divorce me. Rightly so, rightly so. I was, my plan was to ride the right chemical connection to the grave, and hopefully it would come right soon, because I was very tired of life and very tired of living. And I would say that first year coming out of that in as few words as possible, what I felt from that was freedom. I felt expansive. I felt, oh my God, I'm happy. My wife actually said that. We're in the car and we're going to a psychiatrist for something or other, and for years and years they had no answers, and they still had no answers. And we're riding in the car, and she looked at me and she goes, "You're happy, aren't you?" And I looked back at her and I said, "I think that's what this is," because I didn't know that's what it was, because I hadn't felt it for so long. So I can see from your writing that you experienced a lot of difficulty growing up and so on and so forth. But what I also, your writing's raw, it's honest, and what I could also see is that you're healed, that you've forgiven the people you needed to forgive. You learn lessons from it, from the ordeals that you went through, and now you're on the other side and okay. And there's, that's defies all explanation. But how was the impact of growing up in your childhood and shaped this destination that you are in for the moment?
I would say, as a small child, Paul, I felt connected to the divine, and I have some really early memories, and probably even of past lives, that I was experiencing as a small child, still having the visions of past lives. And of course, you know, I would say, I don't like to use labels, but if I'm going to put a label on myself, because I think we're transcending it above that, I would say I'm an empath naturally. And the empaths of the world, we are what I would say the creatives. And of course, we know we're connected to creation and the divine, but the world isn't geared up for us. So I was brought into a family, and like one of your other guests that you had on, my needs were met. My parents, financially, everything, my needs were met. I went to a private school. However, my emotional needs were not met.
Mm,
And my mother in particular needed a lot of healing, and she never did heal. And she was a very traumatized woman, a very abusive lady, but she wanted her daughters to be doctors or solicitors, and or lawyers, as you would say. And
mhm,
we were thrown into a private school, pay the money, off you go, and they should churn out a doctor or a solicitor if you go to that school. Well,
mhm,
of course, for me, this, as a small child, I loved nature and toadstools and fairies and brownies, and I prayed to God, and I felt completely out of alignment completely, and nobody really knew what to do with me. And it was very much sort of ingrained into me what a disappointment I was, what a failure I was, and that you're not capable. And so that became a belief, and um, an ingrained thing that you're not good enough. And then, of course, you get into the rebellious teens with "you're not good enough," and then you're starting to seek love in the wrong places,
mm,
and you attract, as an empath, you will attract narcissistic behavior too, because the two go hand in hand, because the narcissist is really trying to teach the empath, stand up for yourself, for goodness sakes, set some boundaries down. But as empaths, we're naturally caring people, loving people. And when we are out of alignment, with our true selves and our divine nature in this world, we can fail really and fall quite badly. But if we can step into who and what we are, then we're going to thrive. And it's our time now, I feel, in the world. But I definitely feel that my upbringing now was preordained, if you like.
Hmm.
And I think with any situation, when you are reaching that point of you can't sink any lower, and you've had it and I've had it, where you cry out and you're on your knees, that's when the turning point comes. And it was a very kind lady that said to me, Lisa, you know, what about your boundaries? And I don't know, that the penny dropped that day. The penny dropped, and it was when she said to me, but if somebody loves you, then they will respect your boundary line. And it was kind of, that was my awakening that day to the years and years of dysfunction and mental abuse that I'd gone through. Because when you're a child growing up, you don't know that you're in a family that is mentally abusing you. That's your normal.
Hmm.
So if I can liken it to the story of Cinderella, I was Cinderella in the family, and sort of the black sheep, the joke of the family. And then I just snapped one day. Enough was enough, and I've left it all behind and thrived ever since. But I feel no. Um, I've worked through the anger rightfully. I rightfully felt anger. I rightfully felt injustice. It was unfair. And I believe that, again, we're taught that we are only allowed to have positive emotions. Anything other than joy and happy is deemed
Hmm.
negative, when actually I needed to acknowledge the anger and the injustice, and I needed to face it, and I needed to walk through it in order to reach joy. So I don't see any of those emotions as negative emotions. They are necessary human experiences that we need to have in order to reach purification and lightness of being, if you like. So yes, that's my journey. And I remember one time in one of your messages, you know, they perhaps didn't deserve my mercy, but I granted them forgiveness for myself, for me, because I deserve a good life going forwards. And that's where I am today. So
I sometimes wonder about how I'm very sensitive. I think you're a very sensitive person. These are empath creatives that we uh, are perhaps like a sore thumb out in the world, where other people are a little bit more dull to things and can go along to get along and just go to their 9 to 5 job and have maybe a happy existence. But then I wonder too, with how malleable memory is, of how it was affecting me. Was this affecting me just more? And it obviously was, because I was so sensitive. And would someone else have not been affected the same way? Because you can see that in twins and stuff like that, in families where one's more sensitive, one's less sensitive, and you'll have completely different interpretations of the perception of what they went through as children and so on. So I try in my forgiveness. I believe in carte blanche forgiveness. I forgive everyone for what they've done, and if I can, I try to live in pre-forgiveness now, with just giving humanity the benefit of the doubt for where they are. Now you went through, even more ordeals as a teenager, with starting the eating disorder and the self-esteem issues and stuff. Can you talk about those?
yeah, again, it comes down to self-love. It comes down to being in a family home that was dysfunctional, and perhaps the eating disorders are never about eating disorders. They're not about food. It's, you know, it was perhaps something that I could control. It's self-hatred, or you know, I was just in this family situation where my parents were constantly rowing and arguing, but you had to pick a side, and that's not fair, you know. And it was maybe something that was going on with me that I could control. I actually don't have all the answers to that question. All I can say is that once I'd come out of that dysfunction and left home and met my husband, it just melted away. It disappeared. It went once I was removed out of that situation. I'm not going to say that these self-esteem issues went away overnight. They didn't. And that really only cleared away, well, not even that long ago, not that long ago, years. So that's been something I've had to work on going forwards for a long time. And I'm there now, and I genuinely love myself. I can say that from a non-egotistical kind of way. And I've been very hard on myself over the years. And yeah,
I
in this
understand.
quest, yeah.
I understand exactly what you mean. And it's nice that once the stresses and the dysfunction, when you remove from that, that the healing could begin. I think a lot of healing comes in that more natural progression. When I stopped using heroin, when I stopped injecting cocaine, when I became serious about what they call recovery, I started solving problems. I had problems with communicating with other people, problems with setting boundaries, problems with expressing how I felt, knowing how I felt, you know, besides just I'm a big bundle of shit. That's how I feel, and I feel like shit, and I would like to not feel like shit. So even if I had, you know, had the best therapist on earth at the time, just getting me calm enough to be able to examine some of those root causes and stuff would have been a major accomplishment for the therapist. And then add to the fact that, you know, when I was going to therapists prior to that, I was lying to them. I wasn't telling them the whole truth. I was manipulating them to get drugs. I was, sometimes I'd feel bad that I was still so depressed and they were trying their hardest. So I would say, oh, I'm feeling a little better today. No, I wasn't feeling a little better. I still felt like, a bundle of garbage. Okay, I'm just going on to me too much here. But yeah, I think that, that it's never about the thing we're doing. If it's heroin, if it's cocaine, if it's eating, if it's bulimia, if it is over shopping, if it's workaholism, these are all just symptoms of the underlying trauma and dysfunction that we've, adapted and used as defense mechanisms. Gabor Mate says that ADHD is a defense mechanism, and I believe him.
Right.
If things are so stressful, you learn to just tune out, and that's good for you as an infant. That's good for you in development. But later on in school, tuning out is not good, because now we're not learning, and we have this thing going on. But let's see. Now, how did these affect your journey with into like, you did some glamorous stuff. You did like the wedding makeup and stuff like that. So the esteem issues, I can almost kind of see that they would go towards, I got to make myself look like this and be beautiful. And
Yeah. Again, everything just naturally progressed. You know, when you look back on your life now, you can see the path and how it's formed, and you think, ah, that's why that happened, and that's why that happened, and that's why I met that person then, because that led me to that there. And that's very much been the journey of my life so far. So the yeah, it was, I mean, I'm sure in modern society now you see this sort of thing with the young girls now, and they're obsessed with the externals, you know, far more than what we were when I was growing up. And it's almost, we've been led by society that way, to be obsessed with the externals. So when you're unconscious, you get sucked in by all that, don't you? You know, this cream for that, and this magic this for that, and you know, the adverts, and comparing yourself, and it feeds into people that don't have much self-esteem. We buy into it, and it's only when you become conscious that you see through it and what a load of rubbish it is, and you start to work on the internals. So clearly for me, being, you know, I was an aerobics teacher as well, you know, I did all that. And you know, clearly for me, that was just all part of the be perfect, and this sort of exterior mask. Even though a couple of people pointed that out to me, you know, when I had my son, my lovely midwife sort of said, this is a mask going on here, but I was not seeing it that way at all. And yeah, there's always been this sort of drive to be perfect, because I was always trying to fill somebody's bucket, like me, like me, like me. And I could never fill my mother's bucket. It was always a leaking bucket. It was never enough. You're never good enough until you one day go, no more. I can't do this anymore. Uh, so, but I still like a bit of makeup, and but you know, these things are for me now. Everything's for me, and that's, maybe we have to get a little bit, we're taught to always be thinking of others, but maybe we have to get a little bit badass and selfish, you know, and then we
You
can
know,
help
I
others.
do think that's kind of a paradox, because if I help someone and they say, "Oh, how did you? Thank you so much for what you did," and stuff like that, I can easily give credit that I'm just a conduit, that this love and this healing, God passes through and allows things to happen. So I can easily, you know, have humility without having false humility either, just having to be, because there's an old Chinese proverb, too humble is half proud. And but how I talk to myself, my inner monologue, is like Muhammad Ali would talk before he get in a fight. I am the greatest. I walk by a mirror now and I'm like, oh, you made a pretty good looking guy there.
What?
You know, and so I stopped those patterns of calling myself an idiot or a loser, or any of that left brain chatter that goes on. And you know, and then I started learning some techniques, meditation, where I could dispute those thoughts. You know, oh, am I an idiot for this happening? No, human beings make mistakes. You made a mistake. Try not to repeat the mistake, and forgive yourself and go on. And those are the kind of answers I get. And I would dispute those things to other wise counsel at the time. If I was calling myself stupid, I had some impartial wise counsel in the way of mentor that would say, well, you're not a stupid guy, Paul. You're very intelligent. You read a lot, and so on and so forth. That's not true. So I had some mentorship and stuff. Do you have any figures that have been like mentors to you through this whole process?
I actually probably have listened to quite a lot of entrepreneurs in my time. I remember having the Louise Hay books back in the day, a long time ago, and reading them, and reading You Can Heal Your Life. And I know you're a fan of Wayne Dyer, and I watched his movie and really liked Wayne Dyer, but it's not until perhaps decades later that these things that they were sort of saying have actually landed with me. For years, I remember hearing Wayne Dyer say, "I am," and he's think, "I am, I am. I am. What do you mean? What do you mean? I am." And then it was actually after a big psilocybin trip. That's another another story
Oh, that'll
where
be
it
good. I
actually
like that.
landed. I am. Of course we are. We're everything, and it's all landed with me. And a lot of my channelings that I started after the passing of both my parents, I started to channel and write. This was in 2015. I went back recently on those writings as I've started to publish on Medium. I found everything, and I couldn't believe the wisdom I was channeling in 2015, yet it hadn't landed with me. And this is where the realization came in, that my higher self was talking to me in 2015, and I hadn't even realized it, and telling me where I'm going to be now. But it just hadn't landed. And this is where for me, the higher self is here before us, but hasn't experienced the physical yet. And when we cry out and we go, "I need a sign, I need some help," it's as though the higher self is going, "Here's the sign, and you're going to be just fine." Because I'm over here in the future. That's been my realization. So a lot of what I was channeling, where that's come from, in 2015, it hadn't landed with me, and it's landed with me now in 2023.
It's become part of
So
your being. It's
yeah,
internalized.
yeah.
Okay.
And I really like to get my knowledge and wisdom from my own realizations and downloads. And a few months ago, I was starting to see eagles flying up in the air,
Mhm.
and coming to this realization of the higher mind. And then I realized that, these sort of things are written in the scriptures too. And the scriptures are very open to misinterpretation, because people will
Yes.
read a passage and then they think with the ego what it means. Whereas for me, it will come in as a realization. One of those realizations was that I really struggled with having to honor my mother and father, honor your parents. And I was like,
Mm.
I can't honor, I can't do it, because my mother destroyed me emotionally. But then it came through in a meditation. It was like, "No, Lisa, you're the sum of your mother and father, and therefore you honor thyself." And that's what the sort of the Bible is for me. It's something that it'll come in my own higher being. I don't look at a passage and then let the ego mind interpret it. It comes through meditation, or as I'm channeling. Yeah.
I think so much is misinterpreted, and I think that those spiritual texts, whether it be the Tao Te Ching or the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads or the Bible, you know, are living words that, as our perspective changes and we come across it again, like you were saying, from 2015, there were many, many things that you weren't realizing yet that were happening. And in 12-step fellowship, we have, I had a mentor years ago, and he would say, if you can't use it, hang it on a hook. So if somebody said something that sounded of value, but it didn't have an impact on you at that time, put it in the back, put it in the subconscious, leave it there, and someday you'll probably go, "Oh, that's what that person was talking
Yeah.
about," and so forth. But one of the things, I believe that Christ saved me. And I believe my interpretation of what that means would mean that I would never be invited to any denominations of Christianity at all, because I have my own interpretation of that. I don't believe I don't need a preacher to tell me how to interpret things when I can go through the words and bring them straight to God. And how do I do that? I do that through meditation. I sit, I become still, I still my brain, and then occasionally I will bring problems or things I'm going through to this. Oh, this sounds hateful, or this sounds this way. What is it? And I will feel what God expects of me inside, because I am a part of that. That I'm apart from it, yet a part of it. So like a drop of water to the ocean. And so I've used this discipline for all kinds of things. I will meditate to solve problems. I will meditate when I have questions about doing things. And you also mentioned the big psilocybin, and Matei was talking about that on the last interview I watched of him, and tears came to my eyes. He had gone through a guided trip, and he said, and he reacted, he had insight for a lot of things that he had been doing and comprehending and acting on that were like pulling his strings, so to speak, these childhood traumas that weren't even the fault of his parents. They were going through evacuating Hungary and the Nazis and everything else. So, this stress that was passed to him from his mother, feeling the stress and stuff, wasn't her intention, obviously. She was living in a scary, terrifying time with scary, terrifying things happening, and so on and so forth. But the one thing I noticed, in a couple of the heroic doses that I have taken of psilocybin for ritual, is my heart opening. Can you tell us about some of these experiences you've had? I've always
Yeah.
found them interesting.
I mean, I did psilocybin during the lockdown period because, I was actually going slightly crazy, just being, you can't work or what have you. So I've always been interested in this kind of natural medicine and what have you. So I did minimal research on it, had the things, ate them like a bag of crisps, Paul, and then thought, I'll research now on the dose I've just taken. And it was a bit too late. So an hour and a half later, because it takes a while to kick in, I'm thinking, oh, I don't feel very well. I'm going to be sick. And my son was with me, because my son's very intuitive and very spiritual, and he was like, Mom, you need to do these. You need to do them. And I mean, crikey, I'd gone into another reality. I was somewhere else, and I saw the future. And it was a very healing journey as well. My father came forward. I had uncontrollable laughter, floods of tears, and I saw the future for humanity, which is very positive. And I saw future technologies that we're going to have. I've seen even that we have, yes, aliens, and they are able to, we commute, they have gifts for our planet. They want to help us. I saw in the future floating cities that will naturally navigate to best climate for survival. So many things. And it was an amazing healing journey, and I've not just done it once. I've done it a few times, and I've had bad trips too, if you want to call them bad trips, where you've literally gone to hell. And but there's always a lesson when you come out of it, even through the sort of the nightmarish trips. There's a takeaway from it. Sort of, maybe at that time when I felt that I needed to do the plant medicine, I was trying to escape reality. I didn't like the lockdowns. I felt that I didn't align with them. I didn't like the division I was seeing happen in the world,
Mm,
and I wasn't very aligned with it at all. So perhaps I was wanting to escape reality for a while with that. But then when you've done it and you've had that journey, uh, and you experience the divine as well on psilocybin. I don't know if you've experienced that, and that everything's sort of energy and frequency and vibration. There's no walking back, is there? There's just
no,
no walking
no,
back when you've
I
done it.
had, what you were saying is, that hits hard. There were, what I would usually do, is I would set that up as almost like kind of a Sabbath practice with intention of what I wanted to look at, going in, premeditated before I would, do it. And then, and then I drink the tea, and then, then I would meditate again, and I'd go where I went. And, I remember one of the experiences, just feeling like, a timeless eternity of being held by something that utterly loved me completely unconditionally, and so on. And then there were a couple of other ones. I don't know if I could ever get to this place again, because you start to get a tolerance after you do it for a little while. But one where I was just crying with joy. Tears are just, flooding down my face, down my cheeks, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just having this experience by myself. And there would always be, some insights that would come up about what had happened. I believe that's a mystical realm when we meditate, or when we go into those places. So, I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. I'd always pray for protection before I would go there. I was shown that, my God is a God of love, and he wants to protect me. And I think, I've done some stuff with a little bit of what you're talking about, with the Monroe Institute, recordings from Bob Monroe, of trying to, astral project, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I think I may have done a couple times. I was able to go somewhere that I hadn't seen, and then go there physically and verify, oh, it is kind of like this. It wasn't exactly like it, though. It wasn't like, a cookie cutter. So there was something different in the spiritual realm than in the physical realm. And, those things are interesting to me, but I'm also a little bit wary of them, because I think that there are things that would like to, have another ride around here on Earth, and take my body for a little, spin.
Yeah, that's interesting because after my father died in 2011, I went on, this was the beginning of the spiritual journey, and I started to visit mediums and clairvoyants. I needed to know my dad was okay. And I did actually say to my father prior to him passing, I said, Dad, you must promise me that you're going to come back and let me know you're all right. Promise me. And he was like, right, okay. So I said, if there's something else, you let me know. And I've had so many experiences where I feel that my father came back and let me know, countless. And I'm absolutely 100% sure we go on to something else now. But where that led me was into mediumship and clairvoyance for 4 years of sitting in circle and bringing in spirits. And I got really good at it, to the point where it led me into what I would call trance mediumship, where you go down and something else comes in. And I believe God, if takes us around many things. I've been around the evangelical church, everything. God's took me around everything for this fix, this heal, until I came full circle and realized, oh, it's me. It's in my own backyard, which brings me to the film of The Wizard of Oz, which I've loved all my life. And again, the meaning of it's kind of landed now. But the mediumship, I realized what we're doing here who are we calling in? What is it? And the trance mediumship started to feel far from love and light. I would be sat in the room and I could feel the energy of the room made me want to vomit.
Mm.
And I stepped away from it. So I realized we're calling something in and we don't know what it's posing to be. And it's not going direct to the highest vibration. So now when I meditate or I ask for anything, I ask for the highest of good, God, and to communicate with me. And that's what I ask for. I'm not pulling in anything from the side or anything separate to me, because that doesn't make sense to me now.
But they
So
exist. You know,
yeah,
I remember being on large amounts of amphetamines, and you know, we didn't have much crystal meth around at the time, but you know, amphetamine salts, Adderall is very, very similar to crystal meth chemically and so forth. And I would take large quantities of that, and I'd see these shadow guys out of the corner of my eyes around dusk, from dusk to dawn. They would be around, and I get that frisson, the chills up my spine, and I would go in the house and I would just, well, my assumption is I'm stoned. You know, this is just something playing, it's just playing with me. But you know, I've had hallucinations caused by sleep deprivation and other ordeals, and they're usually pretty original. And then I found out, you know, when I went to California for rehab, you know, and there's a lot of meth in California and in the Western United States, a lot more meth. You know, it's infiltrating its way everywhere now, which is sad. But a lot more meth heads were in my rehab, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you saw the shadow guys." So I had a hallucination that's shared by other people who did the same. So I was like, okay, well, that's not a hallucination. I was seeing something that was creepy and felt creepy. I wanted to get away from it. It gave me chills up my spine and so forth. So, you know, that kind of told me, you know, there are forces, you know, there are forces out here that probably don't intend our good or anything like that. I what I do with the meditation, the guided meditations and stuff like that is very close to brainwashing people. Um, Not for evil purposes, so that they stop calling themselves idiots or stop thinking they're a loser or stop these left brain chatterbox and replace that with healthier thinking. But it is very similar. I mean, you can use sound as a medium for that, use light as a medium, have strobes go off at a certain time, which will, you know, will anchor some of the new techniques into a person's psyche where they're not calling themselves a loser or expecting their demise or a dark cloud following them or any of those things. But it is a spiritual realm, I believe. I can't lie to myself there. If I try to
I've had
lie to
those
myself, I
experiences.
can't.
No, I've had those experiences too, you know, and I liken them to the Dementors in Harry Potter. You know, it's
Yeah.
literally, yeah, something really dark, you know. Here I've had that sleep paralysis where somebody put its
Feeding
hands
off
around my
your
throat.
misery.
Yeah. And I've had to say the Lord's Prayer many times to, you know, pray it off me. Yeah. But it's a long time since I've experienced that,
No, I
actually.
haven't either.
Hmm,
Without the use of those drugs, and I never have any plan to go back to
no.
using heroin, cocaine, alcohol. Even I don't like. No, some people can use it fine. I might, you know, I'm completely recovered, which I don't talk about too much because I want to make sure it's in cement and stone before I write about, my journeys of being able to use, be able to use ayahuasca or psilocybin, but not in an addictive manner where I'm going back to the ruts of addiction. You're the black belt, is that like, did you actually have a belt for that, for the
I
kickboxing?
have I do have my black belt in kickboxing, and again, I started martial arts, and it was something that had always attracted me. And again, thinking back, it's part of my path. At the time when I began, in my head, because I kept fit, I thought I was a bit of a ninja. I didn't really listen to the coach because, I do kickboxing workouts, so I know what I'm doing. And I got a real kick up the arse for that. So I executed a kick and landed on the floor and tore my cruciate ligament in my
Oh.
very early in the early days of my kickboxing. And that was a real lesson for me because my coach, when I started, was trying to say, whoa, slow down. You need to learn the moves first before you think you're the black belt. And the universe delivered and decided to throw me on the floor, and I had
There you
nothing.
go.
Yeah. So I have no choice to slow down and learn the moves and progress as I was supposed to progress. And it did me a lot of good because I learned that it was kind of a bit of an inner fight back doing it, and I learned that kickboxing is so not about fighting. If anything, it's more about avoiding fighting. And because I'm so little and tiny, I'm literally just slightly under 5'2". My coach one time, I just started sparring, and this is at the age of 48. I only started at 47. So, I'm already, mature physically, and I was put up against this girl, and she was 4 times my size. And I'd only sparred. This was probably about my third time. And of course, when you're first thrown into the ring to spar with your mouth guard on and everything, your instincts fight. And I felt that I wanted to test myself. I wanted to see, am I going to shrink and cower? Or am I going to fight? If I'm in a situation where somebody's going to attack me, am I going to fight back? Or some people just go to pieces. And I realized I'm a fighter, and I fought back. But my third time sparring, I was with this girl who was about 3 times my size, and she just swung her leg around and knocked the size of my head with her foot, dead easy. And she was a black belt, and I was like my nowhere near. And it took every ounce of my being not to just crumble and cry in that moment. I'm like, I'm strong. I can do this. And I was like, I really don't want to spar ever again. This is horrible because it hurts. And then I got back in there and I learned that, do you know what? This isn't about fighting. This is about avoiding fighting. So I had to realize quite quickly that, you have to just sort of dance around a bit and tire out your opponent and avoid being kicked and hit rather than doing all the hitting. So,
I once saw
uh,
this guy who was so good at bobbing and weaving that he just challenged people and he wouldn't hit them back. He would just avoid all their punches. He was just so good at that they would tire themselves out swinging at him. And at best, if they were a good fighter, they might get a glancing blow or something that would just mostly, not, connecting solidly. And he would just bob and weave, and I was just so impressed by that because I'm so uncoordinated. My soul is coordinated. If I dream, I can do all kinds of flips in the dreams and land on my feet like a cat and stuff like that. But its emplacement in this body has always I've always been very uncoordinated. So I've always had great admiration. And I have a story that's similar to it. Where is that ligament? Is that ligament right in your ass too?
Your cruciate ligaments in your knee. So it's like
Okay.
one of the ligaments in the back of your knee. It's one of those injuries footballers get, you know, when they sort of turn and kick.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it goes. And it's about, you know, you've obviously got to wait for your operation to come round, and then, you know, you've got about 9 months of rehabilitation
Oh
and
man.
after that. But everybody was trying to put me off from kickboxing, and I was like, I am going to get that black belt, whatever it costs. I'm doing it, and I did, and
How
it was a
did
goal that, you know, I really wanted to work towards and get. So I did.
how does that physical practice, the martial art practice and stuff like that come into your psychology and stuff like that? Is it part of a healing practice to actually to take part in those in that physical sense? I know that going for a walk or exercising or doing a crossword or singing or chanting or any of those things occupy the full brain. For me, I do artwork and I'll just be sitting there shading and I'll be almost like in a deep, deep meditation. Was that physical stuff, did that bring you into a deeper way to meditate and to change your thinking
No,
process?
not really. And it was more of it gave me more of a mindset. When you set your mind to something, that if you keep persisting, then it will come and you will achieve it. And that's sort of been the catalyst for Smiley Blue now. It's that if I keep taking the action in alignment and I just keep going and I keep focusing, then it will naturally come. I would say as part of my healing journey, it was a bit of a mental sort of fight back, if I'm honest. You know, I was fighting something back. Um, Maybe the last throes of what needs to go. I don't do it anymore because it's too physically hard on my body. You know, I'm 51 now, going through that change of life, and I was having to get physio every couple of weeks. And you know, my physio said, "I'm not going to tell you to stop, but you know, your wrists are, you know, are not going to see you out." You know, because when you get to sort of the more higher levels, you will spar with the guys and things, you know, and they hit hard. You know, a hit from a guy and a left hook and a little wrist like mine, it takes it, and I couldn't take it physically
Mhm.
anymore. Um, so that was just part of my path. It set me in good stead that I realized, yeah, so you know what, if I just persist, eventually, you know, the desired outcome comes. And so that was a nice learning curve at the time. But in terms of what I do for my practice, as in keeping calm and getting into that sort of meditative state, that's just comes naturally to me now. Writing, being here in the nature. I have to go to the forest in Scotland. That's just like going to church for me.
Mm.
Um, and the channeling and the writing. Every night I pray when I go to bed, and every morning as soon as I wake, I ask up there, what would you like me to say to the world today? And I'm usually given a vision in my third eye, and I'm like, oh, if I don't kind of get it, it might take 10 minutes or so. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay, that's what you want me to talk about. And that's what I do my little videos on. They're always little mini downloads from above, and I deliver the messages out as best as I can into words, because I guess anybody that likes my videos maybe has to have perhaps reached a certain level of conscious awareness in order to perhaps get some of the things I'm saying. And of course, I still get the odd low vibrational mindset that just wants to hurl some mud at you. But actually, even when that happens, it's really just highlighting the very thing I'm talking about anyway. So,
I had a similar experience. I didn't have 9 months of rehab over it. Thank you, God. I was my friend was he was one of my mentors, and he was exploring new churches to go to. And so he wanted me to come with him so he didn't have to go visit them alone and so forth. And I remember doing that one day, and I'm sitting there and I liked it. I felt very peaceful. I felt very good, and I was enjoying the message and stuff. And during the message, I started thinking, wow, I'm just like Jesus Christ. And
Yeah.
it was like, wow, I am doing all these things right. I was like putting myself up on a very prideful spiritual plateau. And then the plate came around for money. And the thought that came into my mind that did not feel like my own was, oh yeah, yeah, you're so righteous. Why don't you put more money in there since you're so Christ-like and so righteous? And so I start debating with this voice in my head. How about 10? How about $10? That's enough. And the answer comes back, no, put in 100. And I
I like
argued,
it.
I argued with it for a little while, and then I just did it. I'm like, all right, then put the 100 in, since I was being so full of myself and so righteous and
Well,
stuff like that. But I ended up doing it because I found that arguing with that voice that wants me to do something that's against my will, but still a good thing. Usually
yeah.
I concede to that, or else I'm going to be thinking about it for days at a time.
I think that's something we have to continually be mindful of. You know, we're very aware of our divine connection. However, God has also shown me how tiny I am, in
Mm,
comparison to the greatness of. So I'm not, I say I'm not looking, I don't want people to follow me, Paul. That's the thing. I know you need followers on your social media
mhm.
channels, but in a different sense, I'm not looking for people to worship me.
No.
Please, no, that's not what this is about at all. This is about, I want you to know what you are. I want you to see the beauty of your creation. I see mine now. I see yours. And that's where I'm going. And always, coming from this place of service, love, giving, and not allowing that ego to go, I'm Jesus, because absolutely we were going to get a great big spiritual kick the minute
Well,
we
yeah, I don't really want the outcome that happened to him either. This is always tough.
yeah,
Look at the last perfect guy that walked the earth. They nailed him to a tree. So I really wouldn't want that outcome either. But
me neither.
my wife keeps me right size. She reminds me I still put on my pants one leg at a time, and I have an above average amount of flatulence and so
You
forth.
just said
That,
that to the
yeah.
to the masters,
Well,
you
yeah,
know
she
yeah,
keeps me. She's like, and then I get like, I don't understand why she can't see how great I am. And we'll have a great laugh over that, because I don't take myself seriously when I put myself in that mindset. But there are a lot of charlatans out there, and I can usually find them pretty easily just by asking them to do something that won't benefit them in any way.
yeah,
That
because
will
you just
just be of a
you
benefit to the masses. Your message
that's
might
it.
be helpful. I can't pay you any money to sit here and talk to me for an hour, but if my money is eventually made from it, it's going to go towards whatever recovery programs I can open, and so on. So there's no reason not to do it either. And so I can usually find the people that with they're walking the talk,
Yes, and
and
in alignment, and that's really what it is, isn't it? We're on alignment with that frequency, and if
mm-hmm,
they're in their true alignment, they will come on to your show because they
mm-hmm,
they are on that frequency and they
yep,
see the bigger picture. And I'm seeing this too. I feel that if we're going to be conscious creators and create this new earth, why are we not praising the people that are doing good work. There's just not enough of that. And I see that all over.
I believe most of this earth is bizarro world, as opposite. The justice system doesn't provide justice. The Defense Department is the offense department, not the defense department. You don't go to big medicine to be healed. And so it's almost everything is diametrically opposite in the way that was set up. And then after a while, when you start taking the aerial view, when you can step outside yourself and be the awareness and look at how governments are set up and stuff, like it's like, oh, well, it just becomes like you see it everywhere, that this was set up so that they'll make money and they can control people very easily through divide and conquer and identity politics and things like that do not unite people, but set them off into factions against each other. And that's easy to rule. It's like, well, if the guys with the pitchforks are going after the guys with the clubs, well, we sit here in the castle and we reap the profits.
Exactly. And I love that you have just said the aerial view, because this is where I've had almost God has said to me that we will rise like eagles in the air. It's in the scriptures. And if we see, there's eagle, even Hitler actually he lived at the eagle's nest. They have eagles on emblems everywhere. And my realizations are, Paul, that we reach the same place of consciousness, evil and good. We're at the same point, but we use it for the good intentions and they use it for the evil intent, but we're at the same point. We've come to the same realization, which is why I sort of understand the mindset and the workings of the evil mindsets too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
this
you'll never
aerial.
find out what a drug will do to you until it gives you cancer, and then the lawyers can make money.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is great. Take Prilosec for your stomach ache instead of, but you start realizing the whole system is set up that way. The doctor comes in for 5 minutes. He wants to know your symptom. He throws a pill and stuff like that. Where if he had another 5 minutes, he might say, oh, why you got indigestion? Oh, I'm eating fast food every day because I'm working 10 hours a day to pay off my credit cards that I'm overspending and stuff like that. Might say, well, I'll give you the Prilosec for now, but why don't we try to work on your finances and packing some healthier food for yourself and stuff like that, and take the long view, which would be the healing rather than just throw a pill at the symptom. So I'm always very, very skeptical. I think in one of Wayne Dyer's books, he called the big pharma the cartel. He's like, the cartel's out, and well, I don't tell people, yes, just abandon all your psychiatric medicine, just stop taking it, dump it down the drain. I'm not a doctor. I don't tell people that. Fine, but I do tell people to start advocating for yourself, research, find things out, and that way you can be a partner with your doctor, which most doctors don't like anyway. I seen one that had this thing. It was very arrogant. Don't confuse your Google search with my medical education. And it's like, so you want me to ignore one of the most powerful learning tools that's ever been at our fingertips and just take your pure word for it because you went to school and residency and everything for 12 years, and the level of, so if you look at that from the wide view, well, the school is just an ego factory. Here's a star, you did well.
Yeah.
You question the teacher, you learn not to question the teacher again. You are ridiculed and everyone in the class laughs at you. Oh, I'm not going to do that again.
Medical gaslighting, as my daughter would say, and she's really passionate about that. Yeah. But it's interesting because both my eldest sister and I developed a lot of, I've had to have stomach surgery. She's had to have stomach surgery. And we both have come to you know, we've both had to go through a lot of healing due to the dysfunction, and she went through a messy breakup, and she ended up having to have surgery on her stomach, and they found that her stomach was completely knotted. And I said, Jenny, I said, you know why? I said, your stomach was in knots because you've been so stressed and anxious for so long. It had knotted itself. And that's what we say, don't we? Oh, my stomach, you feel everything, all the anxiety. And Louise Hay used to talk about that in her books, you know, where it starts to lead to, till eventually you've got liver cancer or something, and it's all stress and emotion that is, you know, stress is devastating. Or, you know, when you're working through anger, and that fire of anger can destroy you if you don't get a grip on it. And it nearly destroyed me until I fell on my knees and went, I can't do this anymore because I'm going to go down. Dis-ease, you know, the dis-ease was
Well,
bringing in
I
the
think that's
disease.
why it's set up as specialists. You got a foot specialist, you got an internal doctor, you have a brain doctor, you have a psychiatrist, a psychologist that's separate from your general practitioner, and so forth. And if you narrowly focus on science, it will lead you to materialism. If you view science holistically, it will lead you to spirituality. I can't quote the scientist who said that, but you know, I see God in everything now. It's like I plant a seed in my yard and I get a shiny green pepper from that. How the frig did dirt and water turn into a shiny green pepper that I can fry in my pan and eat up and it tastes good? How did that happen? You know, so looking at things narrowly is very different than what you were saying. So many of these diseases are from a mind-body connection, you know, and that, you know, you're holding on to anger or grudges and resentments and so on, and becoming deluded in the resentments even, because the longer I have a resentment, the more angelic and innocent I become in the interaction, and the more satanic, hateful, evil the other person becomes. So, you know, or that's how my delusion used to go with anything I resented. So I didn't even know, oh, geez, can I even take this seriously? Maybe, maybe not, because, you know, it's affecting me, but I've built it into such a delusion in there for so long that it's eating me up, physically, spiritually, financially. It was killing me in every way there was possible, you know, which, you know, it's so miraculous now to see the interconnection of everything and so forth. I just went on a tangent.
No, but I love it. It's
Sorry.
great. And, you know, we can talk on this stuff for, oh, it goes on and on, doesn't it? It's
Mhm.
wonderful. It's such a fantastic topic. Yeah, I know years and years I've hit the gym. You know, it's all been about the physical, the externals, and then it's that realization, like, you know what, you need to take this to the gym. This has to go to the gym too.
Mhm.
It's all connected. You
Yeah,
can't
if you're not
separate the
doing
two.
anything for your mind,
Yeah.
I figured out last night, so I like to do calculations. I get the calculator out on the phone and stuff like that. And for every page I write, when I write a lot, you know, I forgot the number of pages per year I write, words per year, or whatever it is. But in comparison to what I absorb of other people's writings, podcasts, and stuff like that, it's probably a 16. It's a 69-to-1 ratio. For every page I write, I've read 69 pages of someone's research or someone's book to get my page of research. And then that's even kind of nebulous, because when I'm writing, I don't know where that's coming from. You
Right.
know, maybe the
Yeah.
first coherent thought that I'm writing an essay is mine. I'm thinking about this topic. It turns into 500 words, 1,000 words. As
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
do you have that experience in creation when
Yeah.
you're writing and stuff? Do you have, oh, I know all it's going to be. I have it outlined and everything like that. For an essay, I don't. I have like one coherent thought that turns into a coherent narrative in an essay because I practice a lot.
It's usually a vision, and I'm given a vision, and I'm like, oh, what's this you're showing me? And I will start I just start writing like the thing I've seen. It could be a merry-go-round, it could be anything. And then I'm usually in that, I've got meditation music on, I'm in a calm place, and I just let the pen write. And then, by the end, I think, wow, what's that? And that could be poetry, that could be anything, that could be uh, if somebody is wanting some spiritual guidance. Actually, I don't want to know anything about the person. I prefer not to, so that it's organic. And again, it's the same thing. I just connect up where is this person on the path? What do I need to know? And it'll just flow out onto the pages, maybe 3 pages worth, and then I can deliver that forwards. And that's how it works for me. So it just flows like water, which is another topic I like to talk about, perhaps another
Well,
day.
yeah, it's more like improvisation or jazz. I was designing a program for Recovery House north of me, and helping it to get certified. You have all sorts of bureaucratic hoops to jump through and stuff like that. And so I come up with a basic design of things that people should do that will make them feel better, But with each person, you ask me how I'm going to help. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to sit and listen to them for a little while, see what I feel,
Yeah.
see what comes, see what rises when we're talking, see what comes up. Trust my intuition because I am trustworthy today. I'm honest with myself, so I can trust the intuition. I can trust that the conduit is clear enough to receive what I need to receive. So in a lot of ways, it is improvisation. I've always loved the improv comics. I think they're geniuses that they can think that fast on their feet, and with these witty comebacks and retorts and so on. We're getting long here, though. I wanted to ask you, the final question is, I listen to this song a lot, "Perfect Day" by Lou Reed. And it's very outside his wheelhouse. He's writing about women becoming men, and all kinds of far out stuff. And we with the history of Lou Reed, heroin addict, and all kinds of things. But this one is just like he's singing about a perfect day where he feels love and he forgets himself, and so on. One line always struck me. Prior to being healed, and still strikes me being healed, is oh God, I'm gonna mess it up. That's okay. I'll give you the gist. It's like I forgot myself. I felt like I was someone else, someone good.
Yeah.
And that always made me very sad prior to being healed, because I was like, oh, yeah, sometimes I would forget that I'm not this awful human being and this ball of neuroses and bad actions and so on and so forth. But I kind of see it now, and I see it under a different light of being healed now. And so long. I'm making a very long question out of a short question. So what's your perfect day?
Well, there's no such thing as an imperfect day, is there? Because I guess there's always an opportunity to grow. But my perfect day really is very simple. And I guess the sun would be shining. I will be out in nature. Maybe I've been to the forest, I've seen a sunrise, felt the sand between my toes, got my dog by my side, and a good pot of tea and some cake. And I think maybe even a glass of fizz. And that would be it. A good dinner with my family, and we're all together and the fire's on. Yeah, very simple things, you know. Uh, there's just nothing like nature for me. that brings me alive.
Yeah, that's a blessing. That is such a blessing
Yeah.
to be able to come full circle. Was so much of my life was in like what Jung would call the warrior phase, or let me build, let me get, let me conquer, and so on, and you know, and bigger, better, faster, more. That would be a better description of chasing the buck and chasing the dream. But now the dream is just always on, and so whatever I'm doing towards my goal is fun. It's like, okay, well, this
This
will
is it.
help. This will be fun. It'll be fun to talk to Lisa today. After that, I'll have another cup of coffee. It's great that I have a collection of eclectic things near me in my room, my geodes and my little objects d'art and stuff that is too good to use. I have like a section of stuff that's too good to use that my kids have gotten me over Father's Day or other things. Like my son gave me this handcrafted Italian leather hand tooled wallet and stuff. It's on my shelf. I don't use it. And I had to tell him, I was like, I don't use it because it's so close to my heart and such a great gift. It's too good to use. I just want to look at
Oh,
it.
oh,
And I have a few things, something that my daughter did and my other daughter as well. So it really, you know, it really is the simple stuff. You know, now I don't need the new iPhone every time it comes out.
oh no.
Only when there's a new purple one. Oh, okay, then that's a reason. It's purple. I
I'm
like
still
the
on
new
the old on
purple.
an old 7 that's probably about falling to bits because I don't care either.
Yeah,
You
as
know,
long
it's
as it's
just
not cutting my
yeah.
fingers when I touch the screen and stuff like that. But there was a time where everything was, oh, I got to get that. That's a new one. I'll show it off. I need a new guitar. I need the new car. I need, and now it's just the best way I think to describe it would just be, oh, it's all right now. It's all right
Yeah,
now, you know, because
I can
I'm
relate to
comfortable
that.
inside.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with who I am. I love myself and I'm of value, you know, like your prayer to ask to be, you know, how you're useful, you know, what to bring to the world today, what to talk about. You know, my prayer in the morning is very simple. I ask to be connected to God, to align with what He wants, and please make me useful to you. So, you know, I live to serve. It's pretty easy.
And isn't that so much fun as well? Isn't
It
it so
is.
enjoyable?
It
Yeah.
is. Sometimes it's picking a piece of litter off the ground or smiling at a clerk in the convenience store who looks like they're having a bad day and saying, "Oh, you know, give them some encouraging words." And you know, sometimes it's writing new psychology that hopefully will be a modality that helps veterans with PTSD and addicts and stuff like that. So you know, but my problem through the rest of life was always I need to be the special guy, or like the author, or the Lothario, the great lover, or the physical beauty, or any of those things. And now I'm just comfortable to just be.
I love that. I was the same too. You know, I knew there was a purpose, but it was an ego. It was all coming from a place of ego. And, you know, if I set out in anything, it was what handbag can I buy next? What am I going to buy next? Uh, and I don't know, it's all dissolved. That's all I can say. It's all gone. And I don't care for those things anymore. And those things never brought joy anyway. And now that coming from the heart, and I do believe the heart, allow the heart to rule your head, actually. Coming from the heart, it's fun, it's joyful. I love what I'm doing. I feel passionate about it, and I don't know where it's going. I just trust it's going.
Yep,
It's
good
going
enough.
somewhere.
Good enough.
Yeah, that's good
When
enough
I
for me.
leave this existence, someone else will pick up the reins and continue. You
Yeah,
know, that's the
yeah.
way it is, and just to be perfectly content. It's been a pleasure
Likewise.
having you, Lisa. I'm gonna sign off and thank you. I'll stop the recording in a second, and we can chat for another minute. But thank you so much for being here. What an enlightening talk. It's been wonderful. It's filled my heart. I can connect thousands of miles away through Zoom and still connect emotionally, which is nice. And I'm planning within the next couple of years a visit to Scandinavia and stuff like that. So my wife might hit you up in the chat here and there. We might stop in Scotland to see what we can see there. So maybe we can all get together and have dinner or something like that. It would be
That
thrilling.
would be wonderful.
That would be
Yes.
lovely. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you everyone for joining our show today. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.